Okay, we're going to take the trailer down. This is my last time putting it down, so sad. My daughter Ella is helping with the filming, so
hello.
If it's shaky, blame her. So I've already put the table down, but I collapsed the legs. I'm sure you can figure that out. And it fits here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the cushions and put them. These are the cushions from the back of the sofa area here, as well as the back of the backs of the kitchen here. So these nice light ones, as well as the heavy ones, they kind of make a all fit together. You want to make sure you're under this line. Obviously, everything under this line is gonna be. Everything needs to be under that line. All right, so that's ready. When we collapse it, this area here is going to be inaccessible, and this area here we can still open the door even when it's down and get to this area. So I'm going to use the area under the table. This is the attic room, by the way. It looks brand new in there because we've never used it. We find that the awning tends to be enough for us. So I'm just going to stick this under the table for storage. And yeah, this is obviously above the line, so I'm going to take this and bring it back here, and I'm going to lay it flat on this end. Now, with the sink, this whole part here, this is the galley. You can see it all folds over and collapses down to there. But before we do that, we just got to do a couple things. There's a little plug here, and it screws in. Before I screw it in, I'm just going to look at the hose. There's a hose, and it runs from here, and it runs out. And sometimes if there's a bit of a arc going up, then water can get stuck in there, and it'll be really manky, and you'll open it up, and it'll be kind of gross. So you just kind of like give it a tug underneath here that you can see the hose. You tug it, you'll make it nice and flat, and if there's any water there, it'll run out to the bottom of the trailer. Then when that's done, I'm going to screw the cap in. Do the hose thing first so that there's not a vacuum holding the stuff in. Okay, that's screwed in now, so that's not going to let any water come back. What else? I'm going to grab this, which is what you swap the stove out for if you want extra counter in here. I'm just going to put it here. That's a safe spot for that. And okay, yeah. I think we're good to get started. Okay, can you pause for 1 second? Okay, so first thing, I'm just going to make sure all the flaps are closed. So this one here by the galley, I'm going to zip it shut. And it's a good idea to sort of draw all the curtains so that when the whole thing compresses, they're not all bunched up somewhere. So I'm just going to draw the curtains out. These all snap off, by the way, and we remove them every year so that it's not an attractant for mice or whatever when we winterize it. It also gives us a chance to wash them. They've got these snaps on them. We have curtains up all around. Now there is a divider curtain that goes here. We've put it somewhere under here. Some of the snaps have come off that. We have extra snaps here in this drawer, and also you can get more snaps online for that sort of thing, but it gives a little bit of extra privacy or whatever when you put the kids to bed to like snap a divider on to here. Okay, so when I've done all of that, I might take the door off first. So here's how you take the door off. Shut the door, put that in an up position. I'm going to undo these two notches here, pull off the Velcro on the outside. There we go. And I want to make sure these are unbuttoned. They've got these little helper guides up here, and the door just slides right up like that. And it fits. There's this little buttony guy, and it just fits in. Okay. All right, and sorry, we stopped the video there for a second. So it's gonna go into here. You're definitely videoing, right, Ellen?
I'm definitely videoing this time.
All right. And I give it a little bit of support, and I use these two buttons here. One, two. There we go. And now the door is nice and supported up there. Right, I'm going to start taking down the bunk. So this shepherd's crook thing here just pops right off like that. And I collapse it. And I can put it on the floor here if I want. There's other places I could stick that. This little bump out is how this one works. That comes out like that. I typically stick that there. This guy like this. And I'll maybe stick him underneath the mattress here. You can do other options there. Alright, now I take one last look over here and make sure it's all done, because that's going to be hard to get to. And then what I do is I take this whole galley here. There we go. That just goes like that. There is a button here to make sure that this is nice and flat. The little tab thing. I don't always use it, but you can. It just makes sure that that's nice and flat, and when the bunk slides over, it's going to be nice and flat. There's a little switch here that disables the electrics as soon as you take the galley open, and that way it knows that it's coming down, and it should turn off, disable the electrics. Okay, so the same thing I did on that side, I'm going to do on this side. I'm going to take down the bunky bunk. Oh, another thing is, you don't want the fridge to be closed when you're storing it long term, so you can play with these little knob things to get it to sort of stay in an open mode. Okay, and I'm going to pull this one down as well, but when I do that, Ella, you're going to get collapsed on, so you might want to come out of there. I'm going to go outside.
Just
maybe pause it. Alright, there's this paracord here that's attached to these hooks underneath. So I'm just going to unattach these, push the sides of the bed nice and tight so your kids don't roll out and onto the ground. Okay, and then I'm going to pull the fabric over top of the bunk. By the way, you should always take this down dry if you can. If sometimes you have to take it down wet, you know, you're done camping and you have to come home, then you got to take it down, go home, and then put it up again until it dries. Otherwise, water will stay in there and it will get all musty and smell bad. So you just hope that it's going to be nice and dry at the end of your camping trips when you come home. And if not, you've got an extra couple of days of having it up at home till it dries, and then put it down again. Alright, so that is in a good spot. So what I do now is, there's these support beams, there's two of them. So I get my shoulder right here on the bunk, and then I lift with my shoulder, and then it comes up. And then I just pop it on the bunk here, like that. And when I did that, this one came down. Sometimes that happens. I'm going to put this one up here too. There we go. And now, going around the cherry tree. This guy just slipped. Alright, I want to push that in. Okay. And now we're going to do it around the other side. Follow me. So, start by taking the paracord off. There's the cord there. Can you see that? So there's like a bunch of hooks underneath, and I'm just unhooking it from there. Unhook. 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 Okay. Lift it up over the bunks here. Okay, now this one, the supports go onto the toe there. It's a little different spot. So I'm just going to use my shoulder, take it off. It's one. And that's 2. Oop. Okay, that went pretty good. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it can snag on something. You just got to kind of take it slow and back up a bit and take a peek inside and see if anything is caught, and then free it, and then push it in. So we're in a good spot now to crank it down. All right, let's go crank it down. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is where the power cable comes out, and you'll obviously want to pull up the power before you get started. I've done it before. I put nearly the whole thing down and then realized that it was still plugged in, and we had to put it back up again, at least enough to get the power cable. Okay. Couple cranks. This is the crank for these scissor jacks, and this is the crank for the trailer. Goes in there, and you'll feel it notch in, and then lefty loosey, righty tighty, down she goes. Going down is a lot easier than going up. So you'll want to take it down till there's about yay much left, because you can see this kind of bunches out as you go. So you gotta take it down to about that, and then do a tour around the trailer and push in all the fabric before you do the final closing. Okay. By the way, I should just mention about this door here. This is like the main door, what closes when you're going. This goes on the bottom of the stove. When you want to have the stove on the outside, you put the top of the stove here. The bottom, this goes here, and it holds the stove there. And then you would connect the gas from the stove right here. This guy opens up, and there's a connector for the propane. Okay? So we always cook on the outside. You're free to do what you want, but we've always cooked it outside because it's just nice and convenient under the awning there. And also, if you're ever leaving the trailer, you're going into town or whatever, you would just shut your door, and then you could just shut this main door in front of that and lock it, and it gives some security. I mean, the door's held on by Velcro on the outside, so if someone really wants to get in, I guess they're going to get in, but it helps. Alright, let's just push in the last of this. Okay. Okay. So at this point, you can just put those hooks on, and we go all the way around and do that, and once they're all on, we use that to shut it properly all the way. Okay, the back stabilizers are these scissor jacks. You can use that, which is a manual thing. Goes on the nut there, or it's much easier to use a driver, and they go down just like that, and I put it inside the door. You get a lot of space there for carrying stuff. cursing my name when you're trying to put those up. Okay, and the front jacks, come on over here. Now these types of jacks were on the back too, but they're notoriously bad for bending and stuff. So I just use the tongue jack here to pick it up a little bit, and then I pinch that and then I pull it down, and that makes it able to go back like that. Same on the other side. Okay, she's pretty much ready to go. That's the 7-way switch there. It's your battery compartment here. Ooh, write this down. White is negative. White goes on the negative, okay? Black is positive. If you're hooking up a marine battery, and we haven't had one for the last few trips, you don't need one necessarily, but if you're using a marine battery, white is negative, okay? We'll maybe zoom in on this little valvey thing here. This is the propane valve here, and it's closed right now, so we open it there. There's some angle irons that the propane tank sits on, and a couple rods here that go and hold down the propane tank right here. So we'll get that sorted out before we get this thing off. Okay, I think that's everything. Should just mention that the fridge controls, or I'll just take you on a tour of all this stuff. So this here, you know, is where the power comes out. Both kinds of power there you can connect to. That is the fridge controls in there, and we'll talk about that in a second. This is for the water tank, so you can fill this up when you get to a campsite with water. I don't know, I found it more trouble than it's worth, because you got to drain it at the end of the season, so you don't get like freezing damage. So we just didn't bother. You got drain here, and this is for like water, like pressurized water coming in. We only ever used that one time. We found it just easier to use water bottles. This is the exhaust for the furnace, which right now the thermostat isn't working on that, but I don't imagine that's a tough repair. So fridge controls, you can just turn these, 1, 2, pulls out, and if you saw my earlier video, you know what's going on in here. We got propane. I'm going to turn that off, and then you got AC power, DC power. So if you're using AC, you can just push that up there and plug in, and no problem. Yeah, and also if you want it to run while your car is running, like the fridge, you turn this one up and it will run while your car is going, if you're wired up that way. Okay, and then it just pops back on. Okay,